Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Draw with T. So, continuing on with my series of characters, I'm now doing studies of my other main character from my story, Calasmere. This is Princess Ysette. Now, both Ysette and Tristan are the main characters of the story, but I haven't actually drawn them while I've been doing this series. I've actually probably drawn them the most, which is probably why you actually haven't seen them. Occasionally I do take breaks from drawing them to try and draw other things, whether that's work-related or I just realize that I've got about 20 characters that need art, and I've drawn maybe 20 things plus, very much 20 things plus, of 3 or 4 characters. And it is important because they are the main characters, but I'm trying to show the other characters some love. So again, like I did with Tristan, with Ysette, I'm basically just filling up a page in my sketchbook, just reminding myself how I draw Ysette, and exploring maybe how I might change that, because it's been a little bit. It's been some months. I started making videos I started posting them in October, and I started shooting them in late September, and that was when I decided to start drawing Storm Screech, which was Tristan's mount, her faithful hippogriff, and that turned into its own thing for a bit. And then there was Christmas, of course, which always eats up all my art time. So it's been a bit just trying to get the rust out and draw this character that I should honestly know off by heart, but I kind of keep forgetting. Ysette got a bit of a redesign, so did Humphrey, who we'll see in a few episodes. He's the big lovable dragon. You've seen him in Humphrey's baggage if you've been following me for quite a while. But Tristan never got that same sort of treatment, so she was a bit harder to draw, but these drawings of Ysette, well, they might not perhaps look the best, at least to me. Knowing how I could draw her, I was feeling very rusty when I drew these. But definitely the motor memory for how to draw her stuck with me a lot more than with Tristan. Now, I was just kind of reminded of my time in college and just kind of being in the digital art world in general. A lot of people praise me on my ability to draw the same character with different expressions. I personally don't agree with that statement. I think my characters warp and vary quite a bit, and I'm not happy with that. I do wish I could draw them more consistently. I also wish I could really stretch and squash their emotions much more than I have. But if you're wondering, if you look at my stuff and you're like, gosh, I wish my characters looked as consistent as that, even if Tegan doesn't think her characters look consistent, the best way of making your characters consistent is to honestly just draw them hundreds of times. Just draw them. Don't worry about the details of how you draw them or what you draw them doing. Just draw them. That's really the best way of doing it. Literally set a goal for yourself. I'm going to draw 100 of insert character's name here. Look at references, but don't only look at references. I would say, fill up a page of just, raw drawing your character without looking at anything, and then be like, geez, this isn't working, and then go look at references for that. I know I did that with Ysette. I just really did not like her hair, and there were some other things, but mainly the hair, so I went looking for hair references. I actually didn't find them. I got distracted, and I found a couple artists that drew faces in a way I really liked. So then I started drawing Ysette with those faces, and that improved her face, but not only that, it improved how I draw other characters' faces, especially kind of the eyes. I still got a long way to go with that, but I definitely hit a nugget of improvement, or like a moment where I just suddenly got better because I understood a concept more. But regardless of that, it took many pages of just drawing other people's characters or how they drew faces, and then trying to morph those to Ysette. And they look terrible, and they varied so much, but by the end of it, when I kind of returned to drawing Ysette how I thought she should look, there was definitely a marked change, and as I draw her more and more, she evolves more as a character, but also I internalize and change the things I took away from those other artists. It's kind of like, I don't know, getting a big jagged rock from somebody, and as you work it sort of smooths down and becomes your own. That was a really weird analogy, but I kind of hope you guys sort of get what I mean. Now here I'm taking some extra time to really work on this one sort of portrait, and this is what I'll be using later when I go into digital as basically the final image. This one turned out very wonky, just as the one of Tristan did. So there'll be quite a bit of fixing up of it in Photoshop, but that just sort of happens when you get a bit rusty. I've also been struggling quite a bit with how I draw eyes. I used to have a problem with drawing the far eye. Now, for the first time in my life, ever as an artist, 15 years, first time ever, am I noticing that now the problem is with the near eye, and I think just so many years of drawing it a certain way has made it kind of harder for me to figure out how to draw it the way it needs to look, now that I've sort of changed up how I draw eyes, and I've kind of internalized that lesson a bit more. So probably there'll be some studies in the future of me drawing eyes, and also the back of heads and hair, and, well, let's just be honest here, I'm an artist, so there will be lessons about basically how to draw everything. There's a lesson for any new or young artists. If you're expecting at some point in your artistic life that you're just gonna look at the hands you draw and be like, wow, those are just amazing, I'm never gonna need to practice these ever again. They're just always gonna be amazing. I'm sorry, but there's always going to be something you feel insecure about, or that you're frustrated about, that you feel you can do better, and that's not a bad thing. If you ever hit a point in your art where you drew something you were so pleased with forever, it's one thing to be pleased with something for a bit, when you've expressed your current maximum level of creation. But if you created something and that was it was perfect, it was amazing, you had nothing left to learn, you just wouldn't draw, and you journey over. No point drawing. That just sounds really unappealing to me. I don't like looking at my work and thinking it's inadequate, but I prefer that because I prefer the journey of art, and knowing that no matter how good I get, I could be so good that I could draw something and a literal real thing could pop out of my pencil, and I would still look at it and be like, that nose just isn't quite right. I need to learn how to manifest magical real noses better. Wow, that was a weird analogy. Now, as I'm watching myself work at this figure, I can already tell that I know something's wrong with it. But I think at this point I realized that there's not really any reason for me to fix it on the sketchbook, that the work that needs to be done is better done digitally, just because it'd be quicker and less destructive. And also, just, I at this point didn't really have time to mess around with the sketchbook, but that's kind of why artists and people use Photoshop, is because it's just way easier to edit there. I mean, that's why it was part of the reason the program was made. Probably not the initial reason, because it is called Photoshop, not let's make art and fix up art shop. Anyways, I actually find doing these pages to be usually super fun, and I love to look back at them. More than the anatomy studies, more than anything I draw for anybody else, or thumbnails or utility sketches, or even things that are pretty finished. These tend to be my favorite pages, just traditional sketches, or even heck, digital sketches, of one character, just a whole bunch of expressions on a page. There's something I love about it. You can see the character or the development of a character. You can kind of make out hints of a story based on their expression. If there's a lot of pages, you can see the evolution of a character. There's certain points in my sketching journey where there's just pages and pages and pages in my old sketchbooks of stuff like this, and those are my favorite to go back to, honestly. Now, on the topic of drawing your characters, it might be helpful to think about what emotions your character goes through a lot. For example, Ysette tends to get angry and sassy a lot sooner than she would get sad. And if she did get sad, she probably wouldn't show it to anybody, so I don't tend to draw her like that very often. When I do draw her sad, it's kind of a profound thing. I actually enjoy drawing her sad, which sounds terrible, but it's because I know that for her to be that way, there has to have been a profound moment in the story, and I like to think about what that could be. She'll get angry about anything, you know. She's the kind of person that if you step in front of her as she's getting on the bus, she is gonna let you know she is not happy, or at the very least, shoot you a nasty scowl and write about it on her blog. Would it be a Tumblr? I don't know. It could be. Thinking about that sort of thing with your character can help a lot. I tend to try and focus on drawing the emotions that my characters emote a lot. So Tristan tends to get a lot more flustered. She tends to always look shocked. She tends to be surprised by things, scared by things. Ysette is the opposite. She tends to look angry and determined. This drawing here isn't very typical of her, which, you know, is... Sometimes I just do that. Sometimes I just draw what the character doesn't show very often, because it's good to practice that too. But yeah, that's something to consider when you are drawing your character. If you don't know what your character's emotions are, drawing them lots will inform that. And, you know, your character's face just might change depending on the amount, like what kind of emotions they tend to show off. A really chiseled, veteran-type character that's always scowling is going to have this sort of iconic, permanent scowl, whereas a happy, childlike character is going to kind of have a permanent smile in their eyes, even when they're not smiling. And that's part of character design, too. I don't know if that so much applies to Ysette and Tristan. I would say Tristan has the better sad face somehow. Ysette, I do tend to draw her angry, but I don't know if she really has a sass to her. And that just might be like her hairstyle and whatnot. But I wouldn't say I'm the best at drawing human characters or designing them. Or really any characters, I mean. I don't know, maybe you guys think otherwise, but I still, you know, I know what others can do, and I know I'm not as good as them, let's just say. Anyways, we're getting very near the end here, and so I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys. I hope you enjoyed this page. Hope to see you guys in the next episode. Let me know what you think of this sort of art, and what you think of Ysette, maybe. And like, comment, and subscribe, of course. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.